Welcome to the Goody Room, your one-stop shop for everything movies, TV, and more. We know you want the goodies. Welcome back to the Goody Room. I'm your host, Matt the Nachos. Got my guy in the chair, Frankie Rock.
How you doing, everybody?
There you go, baby. How you doing? I'm doing good. I don't know about you, Frank.
I'm feeling great tonight, man. I am just super excited about this episode. And I know a lot of people, our few new listeners that have been talking to me in person about the podcast, they've been asking, when are these movies coming? Well, here it is. July and August blockbusters, baby.
That's right. We got some good ones here today. We're going to talk a little Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, Barbie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, and then we got everyone's favorite segment, Children with Adult Money, coming back again. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. It really shows us the love, the support, keeps us motivated, keeps us going, keeps us wanting to push out this content for you people. What do you think, Frank?
Honestly, yeah, the more likes and follows, everything, I love when people come up to me in person and say, hey, love what you're doing. It's like, great. Show us that love online, please. Like, that's what we really want. Not that we don't appreciate the listeners and the compliments in person, but seriously, please follow, like, and subscribe. That would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be amazing because the people that know you don't know me, right? And the people that know me don't know you. So,
Correct.
It helps us both, right? When you're saying it, yeah, it's great, but, show us the love online. It helps us actually grow, right? And that's, kind of also why we're doing this is we're hoping to grow. We're hoping to reach more people, kind of give them the knowledge, hit them with the knowledge that we're hitting you, the people, with.
That's right. Unless you're one of those people like my dad, when he was talking to me about it the other day, he said, like, follow, and subscribe. I don't have social media. And I said, well, obviously you can't like, follow, or subscribe. Just listen to the podcast and call it a day, but thank you anyway.
Come on, Dad. Come on.
Bruh,
come on.
Bruh.
Come on. Help a guy out, right? But anyways, we're going to go ahead. We're going to get right into the show with this episode's Stream or Botch. And first up, we got Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, part 1 of what? Two parts. Two parts, yeah.
2 parts. And I'm watching you just read the title. It is a mouthful. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And I remember a few years ago when they announced they were doing 2 parts, it was originally announced as Tom Cruise's send-off from the franchise, but he has since gone back on that, saying, hey, I will make these as long as I'm alive, or if I don't die from doing one of these crazy stunts. But I'm super excited to talk about this movie. Matt has not seen this movie.
I'm not.
But that's all right. Matt also, he is of we're of like minds with the franchise. This is one of those franchises that has progressively gotten better as the series has gone on. It originated in 1996. I actually didn't see the original movie in theaters. I was too young. I remember being at stores and seeing it on VHS, and it wasn't around until the second one came out that I really thought about it. A lot of my friends went to see the second one, and I was like, I haven't seen the first one. And my neighbor actually had it. His parents bought it. So he invited me over, we watched it. And then that same day we went down to the theater where I'm from and we saw the second one. In my mind, I was just hooked. I have loved these movies since I was a little kid. And I just feel like every movie delivers a little something more. Not to say, as we were saying, though, that it gets better as it goes on. Not to mean that these movies are bad, the first couple. No, they're great. In fact, I think the first one is probably my favorite. It gets, the older I get, the better it gets in my mind. Obviously, if you're not a Tom Cruise fan, these movies are just not going to be for you. So take that, know that going into it. But I was so excited for this movie because the last one came out, I think, 2018, so 5 years ago. I accidentally saw that one on IMAX, and I just, I didn't know that Mission Impossible was one of those movies that you needed to see in IMAX. But when I saw Mission Impossible Fallout, which was the sixth entry, I was just like, there is just no way I don't see these on IMAX moving forward. I unfortunately had to break that promise because I couldn't get to an IMAX to see this new one, and there's a lot of reasons why I'm actually glad I didn't. If you know the franchise is just known for these action sequences. And what makes these action sequences so crazy is Tom Cruise, the main star, actually does every stunt himself. So when you see the main character, for instance, in this one, drive a motorcycle off of a cliff, that's actually Tom Cruise doing it. Matt, something to say?
Yeah, I just had to jump in here and say he's the Jackie Chan of our area, because Jackie Chan, he did all his own stunts too,
Right,
but
right.
I have seen that video of him doing that motorcycle stunt a bunch of times, and I was like, that is crazy because he's an old guy, like he's up there in age.
So to put it in perspective for you, John Voight in the original movie, he spoiler alert for almost a 30-year-old movie. He ends up being the bad guy, and at the beginning of the movie, he's like basically Tom Cruise's role. He's the head of the spy team, and Tom Cruise is now older than John Voight was in the first movie. And no offense to John Voight, he didn't do any. I guarantee he didn't do any of his own stunts. And here's Tom Cruise,
I
older than
doubt.
him, jumping off cliffs. But so it's interesting that you saw those videos. I have issues where I will rewatch trailers until I turn blue in the face. So I knew this scene was happening in the movie, and it was on the one poster, but in the theater, and this is one of the reasons why I'm glad I didn't see it on IMAX. They only show the first half of that jump. He keeps
What?
going, and it gets so like crazy, like the way that the camera pans down and how it looks. It looks like he's going to hit the ground.
Huh.
Um, and it just kept going, and I just was like so happy that I just saw it on a regular screen. But what that sequence leads into is, and I told you guys this last episode, this was just Summer of Trains as far as movies go. It goes into this like 20-minute train sequence that is insane. Nothing the series has put out before has prepared its audience for this train sequence. To say that I was on the edge of my seat by the end of it, I was like holding on because I was nervous that I was gonna get. I don't. This is a small spoiler, but the train ends up starting to go over a cliff, and Tom Cruise is climbing up the car, and it's very. It just, even though like there's no way they're gonna kill off Tom Cruise because it's part one. The movie puts you in such suspense with it that like I have goosebumps talking about it. There's like three times it's like he's not going to make it. There's just no way he makes this, and how he ends up making it is its own thing. Um, as far as the movie as a whole goes, it is probably there. This is Mission Impossible 7. I wouldn't say it's in my top 3 Mission Impossible movies. However, that's because it's only part 1. And I just think that with the second part, they open up so many doors, and there's a lot of unanswered questions that are raised. Obviously, if you've ever seen a part 1 to a movie, I need to see the second half before I really can rank it properly. But as of right
Right.
now, it's just not. It's not. It definitely did not beat the last one. I thought the first hour there's a car chase that I think it's through Rome. And eventually, like him and he's got a new love interest in this one. It's the girl from it's Peggy Carter from Captain America, Haley Atwell, I think her name is. And her character's cool, but like they get involved in this car chase, and they're in this like little yellow like punch bug, and it's a whole joke. But the sequence just quickly becomes like way too silly and just goes on probably like 5 minutes too long.
Well, it's funny you say that about, part one. You can't really make up your opinion because I believe in that too, right? I
Right.
remember when we first saw like the Avengers, right? And
Oh
we
yeah.
right, and it was a two-parter, and you and I left the theater being kind of a bit disappointed, right? But you really can't make up your mind about a
Right.
movie that's two parts because it's really a 6-hour movie.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so you have to see the whole thing, and usually with these two-parter movies, they put a lot of the big stuff in the second part, obviously, because they want you to come
Oh.
back, and you only get a little taste of that usually towards the end of that first part. But I
So
was even laughing too when you were making the comment about the title, because I felt this way for the last two episodes. These titles are out of control.
oh, they are so out of control. And it's funny because like how I'm jumping around here. Just follow me down this rabbit hole.
I'm with you. All
I
right.
know you.
I'm like Alice. I'm Alice. I'm going down the rabbit hole. You're taking me through Wonderland. Go
Are
ahead.
you with me till the end of the line, Bucky?
I'm taking your Morpheus. You're handing me the pill options, right?
You can do
I'm
this all
going
day.
with you. I'm staying in Wonderland.
You're just all right. Great. Let's see how far this rabbit hole goes. But unlike Into the Spider-Verse, or Across the Spider-Verse, sorry, the second one, we talked about it last episode, where I honestly thought, like, hey, this, even though it's a part one and it does end on a cliffhanger, Across the Spider-Verse, it's still a very much so complete movie. Whereas Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part One, oh, it's getting annoying just to keep repeating the title. Um, it's I feel like it only really starts picking up about midway through. And not to say that the first hour is not entertaining, but it's just like, from a franchise that's now in its seventh entry, we have seen better first halves for sure. However, the second half of this movie is so wildly entertaining that I don't really care about the first half. Like, I forgive the movie, like, boom. Especially with the villain and what the whole new mission, so to speak, is. It's very timely because it's about a rogue AI device that's trying to manipulate and take over the world. So I feel like that's very timely, especially going on with all the strikes. But as far as these titles go, Matt, I agree. Like, it doesn't even roll off the tongue at all.
I know. I mean, it's like who can have the longer title, right? And
Right.
then who can have the more parts, right? Which I think Fast and Furious is trying to set a record for with
That's
what
right.
a trilogy and a one movie.
Here's who I
But
feel. Here's who I feel most. I feel bad for. Or I feel like really bad for is that little teenager that, the theater managers are like, send the new guy out, and like putting these titles up on the marquee with those
yeah,
big sticks. Like, oh my gosh,
remember when it was just Mission Impossible 2,
right?
right? Which for those of you that don't know, Frank at one time had his hair grown out, and I was like,
Uh,
"Oh, you're going for that Mission Impossible 2 Tom Cruise hair."
and I
And
said to him,
those you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
I just like snapped my fingers and was like, that's exactly what I was going for. The Tom Cruise Mission Impossible 2 hair. We were in a group of people. Everybody's looking at us like we're insane, but like, this is why Matt and I were like, we got to do a podcast someday, because the force brings us together like that.
The Force is always bringing us together, and it did on the Mission Impossible. I'm telling you, just go on YouTube and just Google like the final scene, like where they're fighting on those
Oh,
bikes back and forth, because they
yeah,
both have long hair, I believe, and
right.
it's just flying in the wind.
And not only that, just to make it even more awesome, is half these sequences are like in slow motion because John Woo directed it, and this guy is like, he was doing slow motion before the Matrix like made it like super popular. Not to say that the Matrix is bad, man. I love the Matrix. Well, the first three Matrix movies, but you just see Tom Cruise's like amazing hair just in the wind. It's like,
I know, it's like one of those slow motion like hair commercials where
yeah.
they're just like waving it in the air, but
Maybe
yeah,
it's Maybelline. Who knows?
yeah, exactly. And like you said, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I have been a fan of the Mission Impossible franchise. I just didn't get an opportunity to go out and see this one. But to me, this has been one of those franchises that it doesn't happen a lot, but these films seem to get like better and better, each time they make them. And like you think it's just going to keep going downhill. And I mean, it's getting to the end, right? Let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
But this one, like these have been like pretty entertaining films. Like,
And
unlike
they're
my,
so rewatchable too. Like I've
yeah,
rewatched these movies. They're just endlessly entertaining. Endlessly entertaining.
Ghost Protocol, is that what it is?
Yeah.
And Rogue Nation, like, so anyways, yeah, I can't wait to see this one.
So let me tell you this. So the movie is 3 hours long. They pulled a John Wick. All these movies this summer, I feel like have been 3 hours long.
That's the new standard, man.
Right.
3 hours.
They're like, you will stay in the movie theater, you will eat the popcorn, drink the drinks. But I will tell you, so the movie's called Dead Reckoning. By the end of the movie, your idea of what Dead Reckoning is, as far as what's going on with the plot, is loose at best. It's like, wait, why Dead Reckoning? Why? Like with Rogue Nation, Ghost Protocol, Fallout, you knew exactly why the movie was called that.
Yeah.
A loose idea at best. Like maybe this is what Dead Reckoning is. So hopefully they explain it in part 2.
Yeah, who knows? It just sounds better. It goes with those, right? Or maybe they just like, well, we got to be like a few letters longer than the last title. So
Yeah, right, exactly. The last title, as cool as the movie and great as the movie was, the last title was too short. It really didn't take up room on the marquee.
right. We're trying to just push out whoever else is trying to show their movie during ours.
Right. So one thing that I want to do to transition to the next 2 movies is this movie was the part 1 was shot during the pandemic. So in order to keep production rolling, I believe the production team had to shell out a lot of money. They bought their own cruise ship. No pun intended there, seriously. But to hold the workers and the actors and the staff. So the budget, that's one of many reasons why the budget skyrocketed to about 300 million. Now, watching this movie, especially with this train sequence, you can tell this is absolutely a $300 movie. There's no question. But Tom Cruise was like, hey, I want this movie to come out during the summer. That's when we make the most money with Mission Impossibles. And if you look at the box office, that's when they've religiously made their own, the most money. However, they released it way too late in the summer because it got caught up in a storm, basically, a pissing match between Warner Brothers and I don't know, pardon me, who released Oppenheimer, because there's a whole thing where Christopher Nolan, who directed Oppenheimer, he left Warner Brothers, who put out Barbie. So when he went to a different studio, it's slipping my mind what studio that was. So when he jumped ship, Warner Brothers was like, I don't care what is going on or what we have to do. The day that he releases his next movie, we are putting a movie there regardless of what it is. And Mission Impossible got caught up in this basically pissing match. And it's only made, I think, $550 million as of this recording. And I read an article this morning. It's going to lose the studio Paramount up to $100 million because it couldn't compete with the other 2. And also I'll let you talk about what the internet did and made a meme out of the next 2 movies, but I'll let you go ahead. But that's as far as Mission Impossible goes. Before Matt takes it away, I will say hands down, stream, buy, do what you can, watch it, but just know you're only getting half of a movie.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's why it's part 1, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, all right, it's a stream for Frank, and it's gonna be a stream for me, even though I haven't seen it. I've seen them all. So, but yeah, moving on, we're gonna go right on. Like Frank already gave a hint to our next couple movies here, but Frank, what were they calling this? Barbenheimer or something like that.
Barbie and Oppenheimer, they released the same day, and the memes for the months leading up to it, just like one of those phenomenons that you're just like, man, I was alive when Barbenheimer happened,
Right. This is what they were doing. They were like,
shut up and take my money.
They were trying to get all the people. They were actually, I think, selling tickets as a double feature. So you could go to one, and then right after, the time for the next movie would start. And a lot of people did that. I mean, I went and saw Oppenheimer here. Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite directors, right? He's done my all-time favorite movie, Inception. Frank, I think it's one of your top movies as well.
Not only is he my favorite director, Inception is my favorite movie of all time. And it's one of the original things that Matt and I bonded over. And we were like, did we just become best friends?
Yep. But, he's done other movies. Another one of my top favorites is The Prestige. We talk about that all the time. We make jokes, about Frank's brother with The Prestige. Is he watching closely? We have a group chat. Sometimes he doesn't always pick up on what we're saying. We're saying, are you watching closely? But he's done the Dark Knight trilogy. And if you haven't seen the Dark Knight trilogy, I'm sorry, but you're living under a rock.
You're like the dirt way underneath that rock, because how have you not seen at least one of the three, right? Let alone all three. And it's funny that you talk about Nolan being one of your favorites. I saw an interview with him within the last 2 years, or maybe it was an article where he had said, I don't think Bane landed the way that I wanted him to land. And I'm reading this, and Matt and I both, to you, the people, our viewers, see, I just did it there. Matt and I have an unhealthy addiction to quoting Bane and putting Bane quotes in, it's essentially that's what she said.
It's so bad. I mean, it's awful. I mean, we will quote him all the time in the voice, because it's the only appropriate way. And even when we say it in text message, I hear it, I read it in that voice. So yes, it did hit.
It hit perfectly. And in the text messages, just to make sure he's reading it correctly, I'll put in parentheses. I'll be like, Bane voice.
Right. But Oppenheimer. Right. So it's about, the scientist who is considered the father of the atomic bomb. And it really does almost kind of follow his life through that period of time. And I would say more so it starts out with him being on trial. His security clearances are up for renewal. They're about to be revoked. There's politicians who were out to get him, mainly because at the time, communism was a big thing, right? And they were actively hunting communists in America. So anyone who had anything to do with the Communist Party or any, interest or affiliation, they were, exiling those people. And Oppenheimer just happened to kind of fall into that crowd, right? I don't think they ever really proved anything. But anyways, shows through, that time in World War II, them trying to beat everyone at building this weapon, mainly because a scientist had discovered a way to butt these atoms and things and create this, mass, explosion. And everyone's kind of, head clicked, and they were like, oh, it's only a matter of time before someone builds a massive bomb using this science. And so, they rushed, and, World War II is one of my, favorite periods of time, just to learn about, because there's just so much that went on. And, the war, those types of movies, they always interest me. So I was super excited about this. I was super excited about Nolan. And, honestly, I got to say too, while I was excited, I went in with a lot of high expectations, but I went in a little bit reserved as well too, because Nolan, he's kind of failed me personally in the last few films, right? Tenet, entertaining, a little bit kind of out there as an idea. I get where he was going with it, what he was trying to do, but I don't think that really hit. A lot of people probably haven't watched it. I actually own it. I've maybe only watched it twice. But before that, then he had Dunkirk, which was another war movie, same period of time. And it was about trying to save a bunch of soldiers who were stuck on this beach, I believe in France. And that's all it was. They were on this beach the whole time. And while there were intense scenes, right, I didn't really feel like any type of way about it. And then before that was Interstellar, which I thought was a really good movie up until, he's in the third dimension of the fourth dimension talking through some bookcase to his like childhood daughter, right? And then he goes back and she's like old now. And I was like, what am I watching here? So going into this, I tried to be a little bit reserved, couldn't help myself though, because it was a Nolan film. It was my favorite period of time. And honestly, I didn't feel any emotion with this either. I didn't feel any rush or any urgency to build the bomb. They mentioned Pearl Harbor, they mentioned the concentration camps, right? But like, I wanted to feel what it felt like to be in that period of time and just the urgency around building this. And like I said, they speak to it. They don't really get that feeling across in the film, and it was almost kind of missing something for me.
So, sorry, I'm just trying to like pick a point to where to
You
start.
got Bane stuck in your head is what you have.
Yeah.
He's has cost you your strength.
No, I'm gonna have to agree with Matt on a couple points. Number one being the last few Nolan movies for me also fell short of my expectations. Tenet, again, great idea, but the only time I really rewatch Tenet is to watch just to showcase certain scenes on my sound system for people that are like, hey, I'm thinking about getting a similar system. What can it do? And I'll throw on a scene from Tenet and just crank it up because the action scenes are well crafted and the sound's pretty awesome. But other than that, I find no rewatch value. Dunkirk, I used to like a lot more until a movie called 1917 came out and just did everything that Nolan was trying to do a million times better.
Yep.
Interstellar, I think is a very well-made movie, and people were like, "Well, you just didn't get it." It's not that I didn't get it, I just think it's really stupid for me, but I understand why people like it. I the magic bookcase just ruins the movie for me every time I rewatch it, and I've rewatched it a few titimes. As far
And that's all I'm saying too. Like, and I agree with you, but Oppenheimer again, kind of the same thing. Like again, I wanted to feel that emotion of that time period, like I have with other films, like Saving Private Ryan, or even like I know 1917 is a different war, but like
right.
1917, you feel what that soldier is going
Oh,
through.
yeah. I think the reason why you feel it with 1917 is this one continuous shot, and it just never breaks away.
Right.
So I actually really liked Oppenheimer, and I understand where Matt is coming from. There that urgency to get the bomb made isn't there, but I felt the emotions in a different way entirely. A lot of times, the way the movie's shot is you kind of are along for the ride as far as Oppenheimer and what he is internally feeling. And there's times where someone's talking to him and the camera will cut to like a clip of like a fission or like some like atoms like bubbling and you just hear the sound system rumble and you really can feel his anxiety. And for me personally, like just like any human in the world, I have my anxieties, and I couldn't imagine being put in charge of the team that has to make the bomb. So in that regard, I absolutely felt the urgency. Not only that, I thought Cillian Murphy, who him and Tom Hardy are essentially Christopher Nolan's Harrison Ford's. Like, he doesn't make a movie
Right.
without either of those two these days. But Cillian Murphy, this is his first time he's had a lead role, like the main character. I thought he absolutely killed it. Robert Downey Jr. plays the senator that is just out to get him and is basically trying to take away his security clearance. And I just feel, I honestly believe we don't live in a world where come February or March, whenever the Oscars are going to be, those two are absolutely getting nominated for their roles. I'm
Oh,
not,
they're absolutely getting nominated, but
yeah,
like some of that stuff, like I don't know if you needed the Robert Downey Jr. part, and like it in where Nolan I think was more so going is it wasn't so much about the war as it was about Oppenheimer. That's why it's
right.
called Oppenheimer, right? And the whole movie is really more so a message for the power that they unleash and us not understanding the gravity of that.
Right. And so going off of that, why I think because the Trinity test, which is the bomb test, I would say that and again, this is a 3-hour movie. It's the trend.
Three
I
and a half if you include the trailers.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Um I would say the Trinity test takes place probably at the midpoint. And I think the reason why I think the Robert Downey Jr. stuff is important at the end is just as you said, he is so concerned, Oppenheimer's so concerned about I've given the world this power, but these people aren't going to, if I'm not involved to have my hand in the cookie jar somehow, at least just to guide them and supervise, this could quickly spiral out of control. And that's another way that I felt the urgency. And I think the whole movie in itself is great, but is made better by the ending. And I'm not going to spoil the ending. However, I think you can agree, Matt, it is a gut punch of an ending.
Yeah, it really is, and I can agree with that part on the Robert Downey Jr. Side of that things. The way you explained it there, that makes sense. It kind of adds up, kind of
Sure.
puts it more in perspective. But last kind of thoughts on this. One of the loudest movies
Oh,
ever. Like I'm talking like you remember as a kid when you had what was it, the George Lucas like
the
sound effect.
THX, like the
Yeah.
loudest
Oh
sound of your childhood.
yes, that is Oppenheimer the entire time. All right. So just be prepared. When you watch this, it is a loud
So
movie.
my wife and I were fortunate enough. We caught it in IMAX, and the whole scene leading up to them testing the bomb. I would say that's probably the movie at its most intense. Even though if you paid attention in high school or grade school, whenever this part of history was taught to you, they were successful with this test. But the movie, like Mission Impossible, just does a great job building that suspense. My wife, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I looked over at her before the bomb was about to go off, and she's sitting there like this, and she looks at me and she goes, "It's gonna be so loud in here." And just I was just like, I want to feel this bomb go off. I honestly think like my body went back and like I was leaning forward and I felt like it was kind of like if you were on a roller coaster that takes off real fast and you're thrust back. That's how I felt when the nuclear bomb went off, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and just like I said, just prepare yourself because what they do a lot of is the movie will go silent, and then when it comes on, it's on maximum volume. So
Right.
just prepare
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
But we got to move on. We're gonna go to the next
Hold on
one.
real quick. Oppenheimer, is it a stream or a botch for you, Matt?
It would be a stream for me. You got to watch it at least
Yeah.
once.
It's a stream for me. I look forward to watching it again. I don't know if I will because of its length. I don't know if I'm gonna be like, continually watching it like I would do
Yeah,
other Nolan movies, but I absolutely am going to watch it again for sure.
yep, I would agree with that. Yeah, sometimes the length deters you, but anyways, moving on to Barbie, the Woman in Pink. I did want to go see this, but again, didn't find the time. I'll have to wait till it is available to stream. Frank, I heard you enjoyed it and had some good things to say about.
So I was excited to go see Barbie for Ryan Gosling because Matt and one of our other favorite movies is Crazy Stupid Love, and if you've ever seen Ryan Gosling in a comedy, this guy he just kills it in comedy.
He kills it. I had to jump back in real quick. He
Yep.
kills it in that movie. I just watched it again recently and forgot just how funny that movie is. But yeah, so if you get an opportunity, go watch that. But back to Frank and Barbie.
So Well, hold on. You know, like the scenes where he's like in Crazy Stupid Love, and he's like helping Steve Carell like get his whole new
Yeah,
attire, and
swag.
he keeps like Ryan Gosling just makes these like goofy, like serious faces throughout. He brings that to Ken. When he's Ken, he just has like these crazy silly faces. Like it just you know, it's like and over he's almost overacting. They're like, show confusion. He's just like, oh, you know, like what's going on here? Because in the movie, the dolls, they live in Barbie land, and they don't live in the real world. So like when Ken and Barbie, or Barbie and Ken, excuse me, because this is Barbie's movie, and we're gonna talk about Barbie, but like when they eventually travel to the real world, it's like culture shock to them, and just to see how they navigate it, it's Ryan Gosling's facial expressions are just so funny. But this is one that I went to see with my wife. We did not do Barbenheimer in one day. We did Barbie first, and then a couple days later, we went to see Oppenheimer. And I was, like I said, I was excited to see Barbie for Ryan Gosling just being silly, and I just thought the idea of him as Ken was like perfect. But I didn't really have any other expectations for what the movie was going to be other than what I saw in the trailer. I didn't really expect a plot to be anything more than like, oh, they go to the real world and come back, and what did we learn type of thing. What can we do differently now? However, it ended up being much deeper than I ever thought a movie about Barbie would be. And not only is Ryan Gosling hysterical, there's not a character in this movie that doesn't make you laugh. And I thought I remember the one trailer was like, if you've ever loved Barbie, this movie's for you. If you've ever hated Barbie, this movie's for you. They call out everyone, and just the way that they tie in like what Barbie had meant to a generation, to each generation. I thought that was really unique. There's a couple scenes. There's a scene where when she gets to the real world, she's just kind of wandering around, taking it all in, and she sits down next to this lady, this older lady, and it's the pretty much the first time Barbie has ever seen someone that's not, and I'm doing air quotes here, not looking like a Barbie doll. Like this lady has wrinkles and she's old. And Margot Robbie, she's also a phenomenal actress as well. She just sells this scene. She has this like look of disbelief on her face, and she's looking at this lady, and in the most sincere way possible says, I think it's like, you're beautiful, or you're amazing, or something like that. And this old lady, not missing a beat, just turns and smiles to her and says, don't I know it? And just like gets on her bus and drives away. And I know, like, this out of context, the scene, probably you're like, well, why is this scene so special? I saw it. I was one of like three guys in the theaters. There was all these girls, and Rosa and I, my wife and I, we didn't get the memo that we're supposed to wear pink. Everybody else wearing pink.
You didn't understand that?
I didn't know. I didn't get that. No,
No, you didn't get that. You didn't get that message.
I didn't get the memo. But most everyone in the theater just started crying, and at first I was just like, what's the big deal? But then the more I thought about it in the context of the movie, I was like, oh my gosh, that scene is like probably one of there's a lot of emotional, like really heavy hitting scenes in the movie. And man, I thought beginning, middle, and end, like I wasn't bored at all. I thought the movie moved at a great pace. I thought it had a good ending, especially like where all the characters end up at the end of it. I was like, man, that was. I just didn't think Barbie was going to be more than like hey, this movie was just okay. Because I've seen, as you know, probably by now, I've seen so many movies based off toys, and they've all just been like, very much so surface level or surface deep. This movie just goes deeper and deeper, and the more you think about it, it's like, oh, okay, so
It
that's
doesn't make any sense, Frank. You've seen Toy Story. Toy Story is not surface. All right, Toy Story is deep.
Okay, but I agree with that. But like, Toy Story wasn't like based off of like a pre-existing like product or franchise, something that a lot of people grew up with. Whereas, okay, so my wife, she's going to Barbie, the first Barbie movie, right? Much like you and I back in 2007 went to see Transformers. You know what I mean? And
Got it.
Transformers is just not a deep movie at all. It's just like smash, kabang, boom, you know?
So is it a stream or Botch for you?
Oh, I would absolutely watch this movie again, partly because it is just so funny, and there's just not a whole lot of comedies out anymore, whereas 10 years ago, it was nothing but comedies. There was a comedy, like, every month. Now there's so few.
Because nothing's PC anymore. Everyone's offended.
Right, and it's funny because Barbie does call out, the piece, that whole culture, but I did feel slightly offended, Matt, because the Barbies were talking about the Kens at one point, and they said something along the lines of, "I don't understand, like, all they do is sit around all day and talk about this thing called the Snyder Cut." And Rose, by the way, she just
Hey,
turned to me. She just goes, "Oh, sorry. Go ahead."
no. I was just gonna say that's our cue for our listeners to go listen to episode 2, where we also talk about the Snyder Cut. But
Right.
go.
My wife turns to me in the theater and doesn't whisper. She just like goes and she points and's like poking my arm. She goes, "That's you and your friends." And I was like, "Yes, that is us."
That's because they don't know the power of
You
the dark
don't
side.
know the power of the dark side.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it too. I'm looking forward to it to come out. And when you talk about growing up with toys, that is a perfect segment into this next film. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Oh.
Mutant Mayhem.
I actually because I've been having such a good time. I forgot that we were going to talk about this movie in this episode. Now because I thought we were going to go into Children with the Doll Money, but now I'm like, oh, we got another movie to talk about. Let's go.
Yeah, man, we gotta hold off for that. We got a special one for you people coming up today.
Yeah.
All right, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, another creation added to that whole franchise. I personally still love those original ones. Where they had the big creature costumes on. I
Jim
just
Henson
introduced myself
Productions,
to this
baby.
the other day. That was such a great production. But this is, I would call it like a reimagining of their story, right? And it was kind of like advertised kind of more to kids, right? And that kind of younger population. And and I took my son to see it because he's starting to get into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? And again with the trailers, man, it was 20 minutes of trailers, and he kept asking me, "When's the movie going to start?" And I was like, "Probably in another 10 minutes." Right. And then what happens? Seth Rogen comes on. Like anybody who's going to see this film, like a lot of them know who Seth Rogen is, right? And he's basically explaining that it's a reimagined like storyline of the movie. Like, I get it, man, but like, can I just see the movie?
Right. And he was the producer behind it. And I want to say he also voiced Bebop, which I thought that
He did.
we'll get to the villains in a minute, but like I want to say he also was ahead of our movie too. He's like, "I Seth Rogen," or
Yeah,
however
he's
he
in
went.
it, I'm sure, for everybody. He
Right.
has to explain it. I'm Seth Rogen. This is a reimagine. We're gonna make Master Splinter, a shut-in who doesn't want to fight anyone and isn't cool, and he's afraid to go out in public and blah 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 blah.
So okay, I will say I thought the movie was fine. Like Matt, our generation was, the live action with the Jim Henson like bodysuits and heads, and Vanilla Ice, go ninja, go ninja, go.
Yep,
Yeah,
you
but
put that on repeat, right?
oh, it's so good. But this movie, again, it's a reimagining. However, it wasn't necessarily my favorite turtle movie. Now I will rewatch this, but I am just happy because now a whole new generation is going to be introduced to these characters, and I think this movie serves a great purpose in that not only do we get all the, really the only characters we're not getting are Krang and Shredder. All the other like, goons and villains. They're there. The Turtles are there. Splinter's there. April O'Neil's there. I would say for every character that was reimagined that I liked, there was one that I didn't like. Master Splinter was one that I absolutely, I didn't hate it, but I was a little let down, especially because I've been reading a lot of Ninja Turtle comics lately. It's just been a phenomenal ride so far.
Yeah,
And
he's sent me a few of those pictures. Sorry to butt in here,
yeah, go
but
ahead.
the artwork in those books, and you actually showed, on one of the episodes, Children with Adult Money, the artwork from that book,
Right.
or you showed the book, and I think you got the artwork here. You're gonna pull up, but
So I have sorry, I don't know how my camera works, but this is the IDW collection. This is volume 1. It's a pretty hefty book, but like just beautiful artwork, and how they are portraying Splinter in this series. Like he's going to, by the time I'm done reading these comics, I have no doubt in my mind Master Splinter will be without a doubt one of my favorite comic book characters of all time. He is amazing, and I just got to a part where, and like the way that they're doing Casey Jones as well. Casey Jones's dad in these books is like a severe alcoholic that beats him, and Master Splinter and Raphael go to Casey Jones's dad's house. Like Raphael kind of hands Casey Jones's dad his butt, but like Splinter goes and he said, "Hey, I'll take care of the dad. Go pack Casey's things up because he takes Casey in," and it was super touching. And I know that in a way kind of happens with the characters in this new movie, but it just is lacking like the emotional punch, because I feel like they reimagined Splinter as this goofy punching bag, and like you said, a shut-in. He's afraid to go out. I really didn't like how he teaches the boys kung fu by watching old kung fu movies instead of being like this, you
I
know,
hated that.
yeah,
I hated that. This is not my Master Splinter at
right.
all.
However, though, like I said, for every character they did wrong, there was one that I thought they did right. I loved how they did April O'Neil. I thought she was probably my favorite character. I don't know the actress's name, but she's one of the main characters in the TV show The Bear. And just the way like they portray her at, because they also like DH her down to be a teenager as well, and just to show how like she's like this awkward, nervous teenager who can't be on camera without throwing up. Like I just thought that was just so funny.
I did like that, where she's basically trying to do like the school news, and she has this anxiety on being on camera where she like throws up. But yeah, I like the animation in the film.
Oh yeah, very
I would
cool.
watch it again. But yeah, it wasn't my favorite. It would still be a stream for me though. Like I said, I'm probably gonna watch it again multiple
Oh,
times.
I'll absolutely watch it again. A couple other things I just want to hit on. I know like we're running out of time here, but I loved how I thought the one thing that the movie did best that the other movies just haven't really nailed at all was the turtles were teenagers. As someone that works in the public school system, it's just like, oh my gosh, they nailed this aspect of the turtles being kids, and I thought that was great. I thought all
I
the
like that.
comedians, yeah, I thought all the comedians who voiced all the villains that showed up, even if the villains only had like one or two lines, they were still super memorable and like very funny. And they almost were like spoofing the characters, like Leatherhead, the crocodile, where Rose Byrne, who is Australian, like she did like this insanely hammy Australian accent. I just thought that was so funny, but definitely going to be a stream again for me. Not my favorite one, but I'm just so happy. Like your son, and one day hopefully my son or our future kids, like whoever, and just like the kids of today, will get to grow up with a new iteration of the Ninja Turtles.
Well, and one last comment on all that, they're doing it because we grew up on this stuff, right? So
Right.
they knew we're gonna take our kids who are
Yeah.
of that age now to go see this stuff. It's the same with Super Mario, all that. They are marketing to us, the parents,
The
right?
power. the,
Uh, you know,
The people with the money.
Right. To take our kids, because it is stuff we grew up on, stuff we loved, and we're hoping our kids love it too. So, all great points.
Right.
But yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into everyone's favorite segment, children with adult money. And I think we got a special one for you people today. That's right. We are talking about the Batman.
The Batman. Vengeance himself.
Right? Vengeance himself. If you're on the YouTube, I got him up on the screen right now. This is the Sideshow collectible hot toy, the Batman. And I cannot wait for this baby to arrive. Frank and I both pre-ordered this. And, I got to tell you guys, Frank, this is for the people going to be Batman watch day one. All right. But we've been waiting. I mean, it was supposed to arrive when May. That was pre-ordering a year ago.
So no, it was supposed to be here in April of this year, 2023. And we pre-ordered him in March of 2022. In fact, Matt and I both pre-ordered him. We were at dinner the night before we saw this movie, and we both got out our phones and pre-ordered them like little kids at a candy. We're like, let's get them.
Yeah, I mean, I had to have this one, especially, for those of you who don't know, Frank and I also have the Dark Knight, which was really considered like the holy grail of hot toys, right? And we bought that one. We loved it so much. We saw this movie and we immediately went and pre-ordered this.
Right.
And we have been waiting ever since. And I mean, they said, I think they were like estimating now September, but we're only a couple weeks away and we haven't gotten an update.
So not only that, but typically when these things are finally coming, when YouTube there's people who make money, they're living off of reviewing these toys. And for the people that don't know what a hot toy is, they're essentially G.I. Joe, like high-end G.I. Joe dolls based off of your favorite characters. They don't just do Batman. They have so many Star Wars ones.
Action figure, Frank. They're not dolls. They're action figures.
That's the doll. But so there are people that make the living, like just they'll get early copies of these guys or these these action figures and review them. And I follow this guy on YouTube called Justin's Collection, and he has been saying for like weeks now, he's like, I don't know where they keep saying September, but he doesn't know. I haven't got it. I'll let you guys know. Quit asking. But Matt had said we have the Dark Knight, the one based off the Christian Bale Batman, and not only are these like highly detailed dolls, they come with all the goodies as well. If you see Christian Bale's Batman, there's not a tool that he uses in that movie that didn't come as an accessory with the action figure.
And that's the best part about these figures, right? Is not only are they highly detailed, they use a lot of great quality products, and they feel real. Like I was telling Frank, I was adjusting my Christian Bale, and he has like the spikes on his arm. I stabbed myself. I was bleeding. That's how sharp this thing is, right?
Stay away. Oh, good. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, but they come with all the goodies, as you said. So you get multiple hands, you get multiple heads, right? Even facial like expressions, like the mouth. You get all the tools and stuff like that. And so, yeah, we've been watching. I think the worst part of it too is every once in a while you'll get like an email from Sideshow Collectibles.
The monthly summary emails are the worst.
Right, a summary email of like your order, right? And that's all it is, because you think it's like an update, and it's like, no, it's just a summary saying, hey, you paid us this money, but we haven't yet delivered your product.
Right. Oh, and I hate those emails, and I'm at a loss for words, because this is Batman Watch Day One for the audience, but like the fact that we're now edging towards almost 2 years waiting for this guy and he's still not here, and there's no word, there's no nothing, there's no updates. And typically Hot Toys or Sideshow will release a YouTube video too, like of their own like reviews saying like, hey, this guy's coming. None of that. Like, just give us like a little bit of news, and they're probably over there like, hey guys, no news is good news. But that doesn't help with my like desire and want to have this guy and put him in my display case. Like, come on, let's go, people.
I know, but anyways, this was our children with adult money pick, the Batman hot toy. Frank, any final words for the people?
If you're gonna make the decision to get into collecting sideshow collectible hot toys, just know it's a slippery slope, and know that just because you are gonna, no matter when you order these, it's always a wait. This will be my third one that I will have in my collection, and the other two, the Dark Knight included, I had to wait, and it is a patience man game. But like, come on, Sideshow, like you said, April, let's go.
Yep, it is a slippery slope, that's for sure. But yep, that's all we're gonna do it for us today. Stay tuned, for more episodes. Catch us next time, same streaming time, same streaming platform. Thanks, everybody.